A good friend of mine called me yesterday talking about a very simple problem. He said, "Hey, my son turned 18 and he went off to college and he wants to be independent. So we set up an account for him, and obviously he's got an app that can do the transactions, and I asked him to maybe give me your login and password so I can also be able to help you out when required." And he said he wants to be independent. So I said fine. And then what happened was his app crashed and he was not able to access the app and not able to access his account to pay his landlord money. And so he calls up his dad and asks his dad to transfer the money. Now his dad says, use the internet banking, and he says, I don't have that. I only have it on my app. And now my friend said, I have this huge statement as a learning point of time to say, well, you wanted to be independent, so figure it out. And then my son comes back and tells me, really? Are you leaving me like this in this situation? And so my friend was asking me, so what is right, Revati? I've been trying to tell him that he needs to actually listen to me. I've been trying to tell him that he needs to kind of keep me as a backup, or he needs to learn how to be independent. I have been trying to tell him that he needs to have other options of having the internet banking, etc., so that he doesn't rely on just that one thing. He just doesn't listen. How many times have you had this problem, maybe with your children? Or let's think a step beyond it. As managers, as leaders, how many times do you find this as a challenge with your subordinates and your team members? I keep telling him how to do this right. I don't know why he does not listen. I keep telling her what to change. I don't know why she does not want to really go forward. However, maybe, just maybe, the answer is not to tell, but it is to ask. What happens when we tell somebody what to do is they look at it as giving instructions or giving commands or giving order, even when that is not our intention. So instead, if you were to ask questions such that you can help the other person introspect, reflect, and come up with answers and solutions on their own, and then instead of leaving them, sit with them and work together to come up with a viable solution that seems to work. Now, the answer could still be the same. You could still know what is the best answer for the other person. However, whether it's a team member, or whether it's a client, or whether it's a child, or whether it's anybody else in our life, when you give an answer or when I give an answer, they would not accept it. But when the same solution comes up from them, they would look at it as, aha, this is the right solution. The key is not in what the solution is. The key is in who comes up with it. So what do we need to do? Instead of trying to tell people what they should do, ask the right questions. So maybe ask this particular friend, I've told him, have a sit down with your son and ask him, so you want to be independent, right? Does this seem like independence to you? Obviously, he's going to say no. And I understand that you won't want me to keep coming in always, right? And he would say yes. And so what can we do? Let's look at options, how tomorrow I can enable you to be more independent so that you don't get into this situation again. What do you think? And I'm sure that an 18-year-old boy would be intelligent enough to start coming up with some solutions. And if not, we'll definitely ask, I don't know, Dad, you suggest something. Now, when you are asked to suggest something, then choosing to tell and give that suggestion has a lot more impact and a lot more positive value, and a person would choose to take that. Now, just like that, when it comes to team members or when it comes to clients, ask and enable a conversation so that people would be willing to walk that journey of that conversation with you, and that can really help reach certain positive outcomes. So when it comes down to asserting yourself, when it comes down to going for a solution that you know is more appropriate, when it comes down to convincing, to influencing, or even persuading the other person, be it in life or be it in sales or be it in certain client targets or certain projects, at every point of time, resist the urge to tell what the right thing to do is. Remember, what's right for you need not seem right to the other person. Instead, take a step back, pause, ask yourself, what questions can I ask this other person so that they would be open to have a conversation and to come out with the right results together along with me, and ask. So, usually in any conversation, every time I've asked my participants, every time I've asked my coaches to actually tell me how much time do they tell and how much time do they ask, People usually say 50-50. And when I tell them to go back and measure and come back, we realize that 70 to 80% of the time what we do is to try and tell people. And we only ask 20 to 30%, especially in situations where we don't know the answer. Reverse that. Ask 70 to 80% of the time. Listen. And then ask further to make the other person reflect, introspect, and come up with insightful answers. And then summarize by telling them what decisions they've come to. And if it reaches a stage where they ask you for suggestions, then you can tell them the same. Which means about 70 to 80% of your conversations, pause a little bit and then ask questions to enable reflection to happen. And about 20 to 30% is where you actually can tell and make points. Of course, when you're doing knowledge sharing, of course, when you're passing on information, this percentage is not valid, because the purpose or the objective then is not about persuading or influencing or getting them to see your perspective, but the purpose is more about actually giving them download and a data dump, in which case this percentage does not hold valid. Otherwise, ask or tell, ask versus tell. Ask more, 70 to 80%, and tell less, 20 to 30%. Not only will your points be taken much more, but also you would be a valuable mentor that people would keep coming back to again and again. This is Revati Durga from the Leadership Unlocked channel. Like, share, subscribe, and please come back.